Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of the So What podcast. My name is Anna McGuire, and I'm so excited to have a conversation with you today about sowing intentionally into our lives so that we can reap abundantly in the days, weeks, months, and even years to come. So the way that I put together my podcast scripts, my podcast episodes is I do two things. First of all, I'm constantly asking the Lord for wisdom. I'm asking Him to give me clarity, insight. What would He have me say? Because I really see So What as a vessel of good news, a vessel of hope, a vessel of intention, a vessel of how God would want us to live intentionally purposeful lives. So I'm always asking Him, God, what are some things that you'd have me share on? What's on your heart for your people? And the second way that I come up with podcast scripts and episodes is that I really observe what's happening around me. I see what people are talking about on social media. I listen while I'm in person with others about what's being talked about, and even things that I notice that maybe people aren't talking about, but I'm like, man, I wish more people were talking about this, or I'm seeing that this would be helpful for them. And one thing that I've noticed a lot the last couple of months, and you've heard me talk about it several times on the last couple of episodes of So What, is this idea of sober-mindedness, being clear thinking. Scripture is so, again, I just said clear, I'm going to say clear again, is so clear on how important it is to be sober-minded. And what being sober-minded is, again, being steadfast in truth, not letting your mind be wandering or cutting corners, towing the line with sin, because the enemy is like a lion looking for who he can devour, who he can deceive, who he can discourage. And so I am just being loud about, hey friends, we need to be sober-minded. We need to be clear thinkers. We need our minds in truth, and we cannot be neutral. But then as I'm even watching is that it's like neutrality is a default for so many people in today's world. It's like we've got to give so much energy to work. We have energy sucked out of us through social media. We are busy with kids' lives, kids' schedules. And it's like to be so intentional sometimes feels like something that you can't even handle. So you just go into like survival neutral mode. And so I want you to think about like getting in a car, specifically like a self-driving car, like a Tesla. You sit down, you put it like on like a self-driving mode, but you don't tell the car where to go. You just sit down and you're like, take me wherever you'd like. And we never then, like as the car starts going, we never start like punching in directions. We just start just like riding around and we're like, okay, yeah, wherever we end up is where we end up. And I see that so much is that even for followers of Jesus Christ is that there is this, wherever life takes me, like whatever happens, happens, instead of shifting the car out of neutral into drive and saying, you know what, I know where I'm going. I know who I want to become. I know what I want to be flowing from my life. I know what kind of fruit I want to have. So I'm going to take the driver's seat and I'm going to be intentional. And so my heart is today that we have a conversation on inspecting where we're going, that we take an inspection of choices, atmosphere, the communities that we're a part of, to see, is this helping us stay on the path that we want to go? But before we get there, I want you to think about the 80-year-old version of yourself. Now, I'm really clear on 80-year-old Anna. She is going to be a woman who's hosting leaders in her home, specifically women of all ages, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, hey, even 80s and 90s. Going to be in my home. I'm going to be mentoring them. We're going to be sharing life together. I'm going to have grandchildren running all around my house. I'm going to be healthy and strong. I'm not going to be dealing with chronic disease. And I'm going to be loving Jesus and on fire for Him. Now, that vision is beautiful. And maybe you have a vision that's somewhat like that or completely different. But whatever that vision is, none of us are just going to end up there by accident. It's going to take not living a life of neutrality, knowing that we're on the path, the right road to get us there. So here's a couple of questions that I want to talk through today of how we can inspect where we're going to make sure we're right on the right path, that we're not falling into just passivity, that our minds are sober-minded, that we are clear. So here's a question to ask yourself, is that what are my daily default habits? Now, I'm not talking just like the big habits, like I go to work, I brush my teeth, but like really those small things that distract us, that discourage us. Maybe it's the shows that we watch, and I'm going to actually get into that in the second question about what I'm consuming. But there's so many daily choices that we make that are so on autopilot that we don't think about it anymore. So maybe it's that you get on your phone first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. Like you haven't even like prayed yet, and you've already come across a reel about some tragedy. And now you're carrying that tragedy with you before you even say hi to Jesus or you get out of bed. Like that is not helpful for us being sober-minded and clear-minded. Not that we like bury our head in the sand when it comes to like world news. Well, that's a whole nother conversation for another day because we aren't meant to carry all the world news. But that we aren't carrying these things from the start of our day. So that's like a small daily habit. Other small daily habits of like, what are you eating? I know that I'm like a metabolic health coach. And so you're like, well, you've got to talk about that. But it is important. Like if you're thinking of yourself at 70, 80 years old, healthy and in a good spot, are you drinking water? Are you drinking more coffee than you are water? Are you eating good food that is fueling you? Are you in a place where where fast food is the norm every single day? Those things become really passive to us, but we got to remember that restaurants don't care about your health. Like they don't. And so they're going to just put the cheapest, junkiest things in their food to get you fed and get you coming back. So those daily small habits, the things that you know are not serving you to become the person that you want to be in your daily life, but also big picture. So what are your daily default habits? Because our daily default habits, they really do determine the direction of our lives. Our daily choices do determine the direction in which we're going. So if I might as well just lump in the second question at this point, which question 2 is, what am I consuming? What am I consuming? So if we're choosing to consume things that are negative, if we're not lifting up our minds to the Lord every day, if we're not abiding in Him, the direction of our life is going to be one of dread and discouragement, and we're going to feel like the sky is falling at all times. I'm not perfect by any means, but I will say, as there's been so much tragedy the last several months, I'm thankful that the Lord has been the sustainer of my joy. It is so easy for me to go to worst case scenario and think of negative things, but I'm thankful that I have been so intentional about my daily habits that I lead myself to a place of joy, that I lead myself out of discouragement and despair and into a place of like believing for more, for good, for hope. And so what are those daily default habits? And then that second question is, what am I consuming? What you reap, you will always sow. Scripture is so clear about that in multiple places. What we put into our hearts and minds matters, friends. None of us, oh my gosh, like I just want to be so clear on this, is that none of us are above what we consume. So like to bring it back to food, we could each eat like a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream every single day for 7 days and fully believe like this will have no effect on me because I eat salads and I eat chicken and I eat broccoli and I have like yogurt in my day. So this one pint, you know what? It will be overridden by all my other good choices. And as you know, at that end of that first week, you're going to be broken out. You're going to have acne. You are going to be extra fatigued. Your gut health is going to be totally off because you ate a pint of ice cream from Ben & Jerry's nonetheless, because I mean, it's even like way more sugary, higher in fat, all of the other processed things in it. Your good choices don't negate that. Now, I'm not anti-ice cream. I actually love ice cream. It's my favorite dessert. But what I'm saying is that all the good things don't cancel out consuming crappy things every single day. And if we're constantly feeding like ourselves with content that is not in alignment with truth, it will have an effect on us. We can't like believe that we are above what we watch or what we listen to. I can't tell you how many times I've been told by some friends, they're like, oh, you should watch this show or watch this movie, but be prepared to fast forward this part. I'm like, well, if you had to tell me that, there's no way that I'm watching it, because I know, like, you hear my baby for a second. I've said this a couple episodes ago. I've just decided I'm not cutting any of that out because it's my real life. Okay. Anyways, I can't think that I can watch that stuff and it not affect me, that it not have some kind of effect in my mind, my heart, my spirit, or even that it will like numb me or soften me from being disrupted or disgusted even with sin. And so one thing I want you to listen to is that, or ask yourself is like, what am I watching? What am I reading? What am I listening to? And then the big question of all of it is that, is it helping me become who I want to be? Is it helping me become who I want to be? I was talking with a woman on the airplane this last week, and like her and I like hit it off, and we were talking about this book that she was reading. It was about Jesus, and that's how we actually started talking, is because I saw that her book was about Jesus. And so we started talking and she said, do you have any book recommendations? And I'm like, yeah, like I would love to share. She's like asking specifically about fiction books. And so I started to share a couple. She's like, these are not spicy, right? And I was like, oh no, not at all. She said, thank you so much. She was like, I can't tell you how many times a friend will recommend me a book and I'll start reading it, and it's like so raunchy and so graphic, and I cannot believe that this is like normal, and like it's on like the New York Times bestsellers list. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're speaking my language. Is that, yeah, why are we reading this? Why is this popular? Why are we accepting this? So as a side note, if you're looking for good, clean fiction, I have some Instagram accounts that I follow that I love. Maybe I'll just link them in the show notes. I will do that. I'll link them in the show notes so that you can go follow them, that I get a lot of great, clean fiction book recommendations from. But that we don't become so softened to this, because these are helping us, like the things that we consume is helping us become, or is influencing to become someone. So even go look at Instagram and click like the search and see what your For You page is. That's going to tell you a lot about what the content you default to. And not only does it that sometimes that the content is sinful, that's not the only thing, but sometimes that the content we consume can feed negativity. So I'm not even talking about like sexual, like pornographic things, but I'm also talking about things that are just like innately negative, things that fuel comparison or even fear. Like I had to unfollow and mute a ton of social media accounts, journalists and things that I have followed for years over the last like 6-7 months, just because I'm like, it just feeds my fear. So I've had to unfollow those people. So what am I consuming? The third question is, who am I spending time with? Scripture tells us bad company corrupts good character. And so who you're walking with does influence who you're becoming. So are you surrounded by people who are feeding apathy, people who are feeding like complacency, who are telling you like subconsciously, like, don't grow? Or are you surrounded by people who are challenging you to grow, who remind you of your purpose, and who call out the best in you? My big encouragement to you is that spend more of your energy on relationships that fuel you, that are more like people that you want to become like, than spending your energy on relationships that drain your focus and put yourself into a neutral direction. And so maybe you're like, how do you make friends, Anna? Get plugged into a small group at your church. Sunday school class, something like that is super important. I have found that I've like posting things saying like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to go do coffee with me and the kids who, this, that, and the other thing. Like there's other women, if you're a man, men who are looking for friends too. Maybe it's that you start a small group at your church. If you're looking for friends or Sunday school class, and you're like, well, it takes time. I've got to go through the classes. Okay, go take the classes. Again, this is about intentionality, who we're becoming. It's worth the investment. Go do the things to set yourself up so that you can do that. But who are you investing in? And maybe there has been some friendships that you are called to release. It doesn't mean like you completely axe them out of your life, but that you are meant to set down and not invest in the same way that maybe you once did, because it is not fueling you. It is not helping you. They're actually withdrawing, pulling you back. All right. So who are you spending time with? And question 4, am I doing anything of purpose? This one hits hard because it is so easy to fill our days with things that look productive, but don't actually move us toward our purpose. So ask yourself. Now, if I'm not just talking about so a great purpose for me is being a wife to Andrew, being a mom to Archie and Alana. That is great purpose to me. Abiding in Jesus, that is part of my purpose. So reading the Bible. But there are things that I believe that God has custom created every single human being for, specific callings, specific giftings. And now there's seasons where like this podcast, there was a season where it needed to pause, but that didn't mean I stopped using my voice. I put it in a different direction for a season. And so in the same way, are you using those gifts? Are you using the things that God has given you? Because I believe that we feel most alive when we're doing something that God has gifted us with. And that when we shelf those things and we put them on the back burner, we become too busy to actually lean into that purpose. We live very apathetic. We get into a neutral space. We can start telling ourselves that our lives don't matter, that what we do doesn't matter. And so my encouragement to you is to be doing something that gives you purpose and meaning, whether that's that you volunteer in the children's ministry at your church. Maybe that you decide that you're going to send out a weekly devotional to some friends. For me, I'm very passionate about crisis pregnancies, so finding ways to connect with local pregnancy care centers. Whatever that may be. Maybe it's connecting with, I saw some friends the other day that they're preparing to do some Christmas stuff at nursing homes, which I think is so stinking cool, but that's purpose for them. And so finding something for you that aligns with your gifts, your talents, your passions, and serves other people. So the 4 questions, really simple. What are my daily default habits? Number 2, what am I consuming? Number 3, who am I spending time with? And question 4, am I doing anything of purpose? Inspect where you're going and make sure that the seeds you're sowing today are aligned with the harvest you want to see tomorrow. Oh, that was good. I wrote that down. I was like, that's really good. Make sure the seeds you're sowing today are aligned with the harvest you want to see tomorrow. And to kind of give it back to that car picture, is that make sure that the decisions you're making today are driving the car in the direction you actually want to go. God's created you for a great purpose. He's not called you to live a life of neutrality and let the car driving you. He's called you to be the driver of the car. And so in this season, inspect where it is you're going. Because again, that vision of who you're becoming, 80, 90-year-old Anna, fill in the blank with your name and whatever older age than you are now, who is it that you want to become? What is it that you want your life to look like? And now it's important today that we make decisions that align with that. Friend, I am in your corner and cheering you on as you take the steps to inspect where it is you are going. I'll see you next week.